what's going on, everybody? Dr. Philip Fletcher here, and welcome to the mid-week show, if you will. I know it's Friday, it's the end of the week, but I like to call it the midweek show because I got another show that happens on Sundays. And so today we're talking about rap, hip hop, and freedom. And what we're going to do is really look at some of the influential artists, some not so influential, in terms of rap and hip hop throughout the decades, from the 70s, on the 80s, 90s, all the way up to the 21st century, and really look at what things they have to say in relationship to what would be considered classical liberalism, freedom, all that kind of good stuff, right? So if you got a question, you can always email me at humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. As always, you can always check out my website as well. Go to philipfletcher.org, philipfletcher.org, and jump over to our YouTube channel. Look up Humanity Matters. See my handsome face, as I like to say, and subscribe and see a lot of great video content. And you can always go over to our podcast, Humanity Matters Podcast. You can find that wherever you get your podcast content. And if you would like to sponsor the show, especially on Sundays, hit me up, pfletcher73@gmail.com. Hey, you can be a sponsor for as little as $5. I would love to spread the word about what you're doing, whether it's a business or nonprofit or anything like that. So want to dive deep. And so today we are going to check out NWA. NWA. Now, N's with attitudes. You can pretty much figure out what the N stands for. Influential group from Southern California who came from a city of Compton, made up of the members of Eazy-E, who is deceased. He died in the late 90s. Dr. Dre. So if you got your beats, right? Eminem, okay? Snoop Dogg, he discovered those artists and he created the beats. That came from Dr. Dre. You've got Yella, you've got Ren, and then you've got Ice Cube, right? Ice Cube. He wrote Friday After Next, that series of movies. He also was in that family series, Are We There Yet? Yes, Ice Cube, right? Ice Cube, okay? And he now started, a few years back, started a basketball league as well. And they had a movie come out a few years ago that chronicled their rise and some of the controversies that they were involved with. Probably their most controversial, F the Police. But today we're looking at one of their songs, Express Yourself. Express Yourself. And so Express Yourself was one of the tracks that came out of their album Straight Outta Compton. Now, again, they're hailing from Compton, California. Compton, California actually is about an hour from where I grew up. I grew up in Riverside, California. So there was a eruption of what will be considered by some gangster rap. Okay, so you had NWA, you had Ice-T, and others, and eventually you had what would be Snoop Dogg, and what would eventually come Death Row. Tupac joined them for a while. Dr. Dre was heavily involved with Death Row and Suge Knight, but nonetheless, that would be what we considered kind of gangster rap. So rap moved from the East Coast, New York, then it moved to the West Coast, Southern California, and also in Oakland, California as well. But nonetheless, they produced a song called Express Yourself, right? And why are we looking at Express Yourself? Because with Express Yourself, these lyrics really hit on this whole idea of individualism, right? That each one of us, each man and woman, all right, and as I like to say, made in the image and likeness of God. And, you know, if grandma, auntie have taken you to Sunday school, or anything like that, then you have heard that, God created you, right? Unique, right? And so NWA produced this song, and this track opens up with Dr. Dre, and they talk about the importance of individualism, right? And individualism is an important theme actually in what would be considered classical liberalism, liberal thought, especially that was developed in the West. And so this video that came out in regards to express yourself is done in the backdrop of a plantation. It opens up. I wanted to show the video, but I couldn't get it. Got to work on some stuff so I can show videos. But if you look up express yourself, and I'll put this in the description section, it's done on the backdrop of a plantation. That's how it opens up. And, obviously got the sameness in times of job. Pretty much people are picking cotton, and they're being overseen by one of the slave hands who's sitting on a horse. And one of the individuals gets whooped, and one of the slaves picks up a rock and is about to throw it, right? He's about to break out of this group, right? And defend himself. And he is restrained, and then they run. Now, here's the thing about this video, Express Yourself. Here's the thing about the song Express Yourself that NWA put out. What you see in this video is not indicative of all Black culture, right? It is one expression of Black culture in a particular area. Every demographic cannot just be boiled down into one thing, right? And so people tend to generalize, and when they say Blacks, they think automatically inner city or the poor, and that's just not the case. The economic data is demonstrating that the majority of Black Americans actually don't live in the inner city. All right, over 60% of them are middle class and higher. This is not to ignore the fact that there are beautiful men and women who are struggling in the inner city, but just like every other ethnic group, there are persons who are flourishing. There are persons in the middle who are flourishing extremely. There are persons who are flourishing in the middle class, and then there are persons who that you can find in what would be considered the inner city. And the inner city has Black people. It has derivations of Asians. It has derivations of white people. It has derivations of Latinos, so on and so forth. But for NWA, they are in their platform, and when they came out in the 80s, they gave a picture of what was going on in the inner city, specifically in Southern California. Oh, I lost my feed here. All right, give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. Feed kind of dropped off there, but here you go. So they were expressing what was specifically going on in Southern California in this inner city expression, which would be Compton. Now, Compton is different than some other inner city areas in Los Angeles. Nonetheless, NWA wanted to put this song out called Express Yourself. Express Yourself. And so here's some citations that I wanted to bring up as they highlighted individualism. One is that Dr. Dre says this, and I quote, "Some don't agree with how I do this." Okay, so he is enunciating that there are going to be those, obviously, even within the inner city, and those who are looking in, looking at the music that they're producing and what they're talking about. And they are going to say to Dr. Dre, to Ice Cube, Eazy-E, that whole group, hey, why are you using this language? Why are you highlighting the violence? Why are you talking about these negative interactions with police? Surely there is a better way, right? But what Dr. Dre is saying is this: is that hey, this is how I'm going to express what I see going on in the area in which I live. All right. The second thing, Dr. Dre goes on to say this: hey, don't be a sequel. Think about that. Isn't that amazing? Dr. Dre is announcing in this track, Express Yourself, on the album Straight Outta Compton. Hey, don't be a sequel. Be your own man, be your own woman. Stand out. And if you will, God made each of us as individuals. We are not to be defined by one identity or one group. There's a host of different variables that are going into why we are the way that we are. And so for Dr. Dre, he not only says some don't agree with how I do this, right? And he's doing it in the form of rap music, wearing black, right? Wearing Raiders and all that gear that was popular back in the day. But also he's saying, hey, don't be a sequel, be yourself. And then he goes on to say, it's crazy to see people be what society wants them to be, but not me. But not me. It's crazy to see people be what society wants them to be, but not me. And so Dr. Dre is saying, express yourself. He is pushing back against conformity. He is pushing back against thinking the same way. He is pushing back, hey, I'm going to be an individual. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to express myself. This is how I'm going to express what is going on in the city of Compton as it relates to relationships with other men, relationships with women, relationships with the government, and specifically law enforcement. And that sets the context for that one song, F the Police. And so here's the one thing about rap music and hip hop, all right, is that it's expressing the power of individuality. It's really speaking to the core of each and every one of us. And so whether you come from the East Coast, the West Coast, whether you grow up in an affluent society, or whether you are in a trailer park, or whether you're in the rural areas, rap music does speak to the power of being an individual in his music, in his lifestyle, and even its personality. There is this essence in which it pushes back against conformity. Even when you look within the genre of rap and hip hop, you find men and women who are seeking to express themselves in different ways, not to be sequels, right? There could be styles that are similar, right? But when you listen to the things that they're talking about and how they're using words and similes and metaphors and wordplay to express what is going on in their particular situation, what you are seeing is that they are pressing back against conformity. And that's a pretty amazing thing. And it's an echo of what is called classical liberalism. All right. So how does it end? Right. So the video ends with Dr. Dre in the electric chair. He's electrocuted. Well, why? Because he's not conforming. That the group, that the society, what the message is conveying is that the society will not tolerate individual thought, individual expression, individual thinking, pressing back against what is considered the norm. So this is symbolic of his refusal to conform, thus leading to his metaphorical death. Let's express yourself. So what does this have to do with classical liberalism, libertarianism, so on and so forth? All right. So John Stuart Mill, all right, we're going to bring up a quote by him. He says this, all right: the real advantage which truth has consists in this, that when an opinion is true, it may be extinguished once, twice, or many times, but in the course of ages, there will generally be found persons to rediscover it. That's from John Stuart Mill on liberty. So John Stuart Mill, he's saying, hey, truth is going to persist, right? And so some of the things that Dr. Dre and NWA spoke about on that whole album, Straight Outta Compton, they were offering a serious critique of what they were seeing happen in their specific area, namely Compton, California. All right. And even more specifically, their relationship in one case in regards to life in relationship to law enforcement. Whoa. what did we go through in 2020? Right. There was a critique, all right, from a particular group of people about their relationship with law enforcement. Now, not only was that said from Black men and women, all right, but it was also demonstrated from other American citizens as well in relationship to, guess what? The whole mask man thing and COVID, right? So rap music offered the opportunity to show what it is to critique an individual's relationship to the government, right? And that was found in NWA. It was found in the song Express Yourself. And John Stuart Mill was saying this, is that, hey, truth is going to persist. You can put it down once, you can put it down twice, but somebody is going to pick that up and keep running with it until people pay attention to that truth. The other thing John Stuart Mill said was this, is that there's a price to be paid. All right. There's a price to be paid for this sort of individual pacification. It's the sacrifice of the entire moral courage of the human mind. So when the society seeks to say, hey, you're going to conform, all right? When society is saying, hey, you can't do it that way, you have to do it our way. When society says you're going to be a sequel, right? You're going to be just like everybody else, right? When society says, hey, you're going to be like everybody else, and if not, you're going to be alienated, you're going to be excluded on this, or how it was expressed in the video, Express Yourself, we'll just end your life. Now, again, that imagery that was used in the video was a metaphor for that. Conform, or we're going to do away with you. All right. Conform, or we're going to do away with you. But John Stuart Mill said, hey, there's a price for groupthink. There's a price, to just go along and think like everybody else. There is a price, and that price, all right, is the price paid against the mind, the human mind. And what needs to happen is that individuals, all right, expressing their human agency, expressing what they have learned, all right, offering critiques of what's going on in their lives, okay, that takes some courage. That takes a whole lot of moral courage. So Milton says, hey, God has given us this reason, this mind to do some things. Milton, who? John Milton. And he said this, give me the liberty to know, to utter, and to argue freely according to conscience above all liberties. All right. So John Stuart Mill is critiquing really what was going on with the whole Catholic Protestant thing back in the day. But he said it was important that we should use our faculties to think, that we've been given this reason, right, to think independently and to offer critique, and to, out of those critiques, I would add then to offer solutions, new paths. Now, with every new solution and new path, there's trade-offs, but one of the trade-offs that should not be is our independent thinking, right, and the courage to critique things. All right, so what's the so what as we come to the close of this, right? So the opportunity of free expression is an opportunity to demonstrate the agency of the individual and how he or she thinks. But also what NWA has shown is how we can shed light on threats and problems which confront individuals, their freedom, and this natural bent that we have for human beings to discover both our purpose and meaning. What groupthink does, it squelches the opportunity for individuals, men and women, to answer those fundamental questions. You know those fundamental questions, right? Like, why am I here? Right? Who am I? Why am I here? Who am I? Like, and then what am I supposed to do specifically? Groupthink squelches that. But when we're thinking independently, right? When we are doing and saying things in such a way that is not seeking to contribute to restraining the freedom of other individuals, right? When we push against groupthink, when we push against trying to be made into a sequel, there is our opportunity to discover purpose and meaning. The second thing is this, is that NWA, yes, I'm saying NWA offers an example, while shocking to some, how to express oneself in relationship to government's life, right? Ultimately, the question we have to ask ourselves in America, all right, and I'm hollering directly at my Black brothers and sisters here, is what is going to be our relationship, our individual lives, and the government, right? Do we want to continue to be our own men and women, not defined by some external force, right? Not defined by some historical suffering, right? Not defined by what others say about us, but looking at ourselves and asking ourselves, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And then having the freedom to express that, and then also recognize that when the external force, when I say force, that external force, influence, meaning government, when it encroaches on our ability to answer those fundamental questions regarding purpose and meaning, who am I? Why am I here? Right? Then we say, hey, hold on a second. In the spirit of John Milton, in the spirit of John Stuart Mill, in the spirit of Dr. Dre, right? And Ice Cube and NWA, don't be a sequel, right? As I said, it's crazy to see people be what society wants them to be, but not me, right? Third is this, it takes a level of courage to identify a problem regarding one's freedom to simply live and offer a critique, right? So when you're living and you see something encroaching on your freedom, it takes courage, right? So be courageous and offer a critique and say, hey, you're coming too far. But to do otherwise, to be silent, to be a silent voice, all right, is a pacification of the mind. So have courage. So finally, my encouragement to you, I'm speaking to everybody, right? Whether you like rap and hip hop or not, okay? Whether you grew up in the inner city or not, remember this, use an art form, right? Some of you are poets. Some of you draw, okay? Some of you, like a rapper, are able to take words and put them in such a way that it paints a picture and it offers a critique of things that are going on in society, that you can use your art form to tell your individual story in relationship to external influences, namely the government, what's going on in your society, so on and so forth. I would encourage you as well to study the history of that involvement through a different lens other than race. Speaking directly, race is not the answer to everything, right? A lot of the times you look in history, it's really the government coming in and saying, we're just going to restrict everybody's freedom. And do not be afraid to carry independent thought. Express that thought and even have it challenged, all right? While at the same time not acting in such a way that stands in the way of another individual's freedom to live and flourish. All right? So, hey, that's NWA. Express Yourself from the album Straight Outta Compton, right? Hey, next Friday, we're going to be looking at J. Cole, right? And talking about taxes from his track Brackets. Hey, y'all remember to be loved, be kind, be generous, and remember to live in hope. We can do the impossible. Y'all take care. God bless.